Hey guys, here for Legion, Season 1, Episode 3, Chapter 3, and I was definitely looking forward to this episode. As you guys know, I really have been loving this show. I can understand why some people haven't. I know people have said even after this episode they're close to dropping out, and I completely understand that because while I am loving the show, it is one of the most vague shows on TV by far, and it requires you to pay a lot of attention, and this episode especially, I mean, there was so much going on in this episode. Another really great episode in my opinion. Not a perfect episode. I will definitely get into some of my more problematic things with the show that I'm sure they will fix, but for right now, they are definitely problems. So let's just get in this episode that I definitely do want to talk about. A lot going on in this one, and again, I'm just really loving the weirdness of the show, but let's just jump right into it. So we start off, and once again, we get a bunch of random scenes, and I noticed that the show does that a lot. It doesn't start like normal shows do. This show just starts. Like, there's no intro, there's no previously on Legion. This show just starts, and that's kind of similar to what Noah Hawley does with Fargo, but at least Fargo has an intro screen. It says, the events that have been reported have been, are false and things like that. Noah Hawley still does that, which happy to see Fargo's coming out after this, which is crazy to see. Noah Hawley's got a back-to-back, but that's something I really do love about Noah Hawley, is how unique he is with the way he does his shows. He doesn't have intros, and this episode abandons the intro, which I'm hoping is not true. I really do love the intro the show has been providing us. I hope it's just a this episode thing, but we'll have to see. But we start off in the Eye begins examining Amy's memories. As we know, the Eye kidnapped Amy, which David at this point does not seem that concerned about. Like, I think he knows definitely something happened to her, but he's not that worried about. Like, it's not really the thing he's most focused on. Melanie gets a coffee from the machine, which shares her the story of the poor woodcutter and his wife, which is a very interesting story. David sits at the docks. Sid is taking a shower, and Potomi then sits in the memory cube, and we see Carrie exercises as Loudermilk checks his equipment, and after a moment, she ends up entering Loudermilk's body, and David telepathically experiences what Amy is experiencing as the Eye scans her memories, which, that was interesting to see, the way that he was able to feel Amy, but the thing is, Sid was not present at this point, so how was he able to feel her feelings? And that's something we do get into this episode, that David has a lot more powers than they think, and after the coffee machine tells her a story of how the woodcutter and his wife adopted a daughter, discovered that she was a crane, and then she flew off, Melanie dumps the coffee and asks for another cup. And this is one of those shows where everything you hear is somewhat important. Everything really is substantial. So this story that Melanie's told, I think definitely does apply to David in some way. We don't exactly know what it's about, but I do think some of it definitely does apply to David. I think that there's a lot of stuff that he doesn't remember about, and I'm interested in seeing really what that woodcutter story has to do with it. But that woodcutter story is the perfect catalyst for what this episode's really going to be. I think it did an incredible job with that, and so far, the show is really impressing me with how different it is, with opening a show compared to other shows. So Brubaker tells Amy that they can see that she's serious, that she can see that they're serious, and she insists that she doesn't know what they want. I mean, again, she is under the, she's under the intuition and things like that, that her brother is in fact, has schizophrenia. That's what she thinks. She's been told that her entire life. She thinks that he is just, really sick, and that's really all there is. She doesn't know about any of the stuff that's been going on. You kind of do have to feel bad for Amy in that regard, because she really is a character that's the most in the dark about everything, and this isn't something that was aforementioned to her. She really has no idea what's going on, and that instinct that she has, it definitely is a good one, because that's what she's been told her entire life, but we know obviously that's not what's going on, so that's definitely interesting to see. So Sid then finds David on the dock and asks if he's ready, and this is when the real episode starts. Like I said, there were little scenes, which I love at the scene. We kept hearing them say, shall we begin, shall we begin? Like, we kept hearing that. I just thought that was really well done. They go to the veranda, and Melanie tells David how they review his memories and discover what the triggers are for his powers. Because remember, even Melanie and Potomi, they don't understand how David's mind works. They're trying to figure out all the ins and outs of that kind of stuff, and even David doesn't really know. So, however, because of Amy's capture, they don't really have the time to take that approach, and they're going to focus on what scares David the most, because obviously they need to rescue Amy as quickly as possible, so they focus on David's fears, and this really gives us a very psychological look into which the show has been very psychological up to this point. I've said that before. This is definitely one of the most trippy episodes the show has given us. I mean, the whole show has been trippy, but this episode was especially very trippy. Potomi says he's discovered a memory of the kitchen that they couldn't access previously, and Sid assures David that she'll be there with him, and David concentrates, and Potomi then frees the memory after Philly leaves the kitchen, and again, we hear about Philly again, and David says that he and Philly fought a lot, and that's understandable. Again, she, again, was probably subjected to thinking that he was, was in fact had schizophrenia, and she probably freaked out because of that, and they probably got into a lot of frequent, they had a lot of frequent fights and things like that. So the objects in the kitchen shake, then shoot into the air, and Potomi frees the memory, and Melanie realizes that David is actually telekinetic, and he tells him that he can learn control once they end up finding his triggers. Right now, it's just kind of just happening. He doesn't really know how it's happening, but it just is. And again, these little reveals are really well done. I love how subtle this show is with the reveals. It's not like this huge thing, but she's just realizing how powerful he really is, and that David has a lot more powers than she thinks. So he goes to memory of David and Lenny taking Blue, and Philly coming in with cake and finding them. She says that Peter and Vanessa are on their way. Now, we don't know who these characters are. We've never heard these names in our life, but Lenny rips open the cake box, and when Philly realizes that David is using, she yanks the container away. So David was doing a hefty amount of drugs at this point, and I don't know if this is because of Lenny, which it very well could be. Lenny definitely has that not give a shit attitude to her, but you can definitely tell that Lenny and David, before Lenny died, of course, before, whatever ended up happening to her, even though these two were so close, it definitely did plague him and Philly's relationship, and I do like the way they are kind of giving us a little bit of answers, but not telling us exactly what's going on. It's just a really good way to open that door and give us a peek into the relationship, but they're just giving us just the glimpse. It's not the full look. This is just a glimpse, and I liked the show. Basically, is a little morsels of things. We're going to see more and more as it goes on, and I'm already very invested in where this is really going. So Lenny grabs her, and Potomi freezes the memory, and Melanie figures that David felt trapped, and that, because he really couldn't get out of this, and they return to the kitchen, but David resists Potomi's efforts. He just doesn't want to go into that memory any further. You can tell it's a very hard memory for him to go into, but the devil emerges laughing, but only David can see him, the devil with the yellow eyes, and I think it's interesting that only David can see him. Definitely there's a reason why, and we know that that devil is from that book that his father used to read him, but the kitchen door slams shut on Melanie. David says that all he remembers is the fear that Potomi is unable to take them back, and David says that he isn't fighting him, and suddenly they're out of the memories, and they're in a room at Summerdale, and Melanie tells David that he teleported them out of the memory cube to the main building, and Potomi wonders what David is, but David doesn't know, and I know a lot of people are pissed off about that scene, but it's the truth. I mean, we don't know what David is because he himself doesn't know, and that's what the show's going to be. It's going to be David discovering really what he's becoming, and no one really knows at this point. David, we know he's a mutant, obviously. He definitely does have these powers, but what exactly is he? Is he supposed to be good? Is he supposed to be bad? Why does he have these powers? How does he control them? Those are things we don't know, and I like that the show, again, is kind of leaving us in the dark about that. So, Amy tells Brubaker that David has to take his pills or he'll get in trouble. He says that David doesn't need the pills, much to Amy's surprise, and obviously that's because he's not really, schizophrenic. So, Loudermilk hooks David up to an equipment to monitor his brainwaves, and Carrie appears to give Loudermilk a syringe to inject David with a dye to help him track things, and once she leaves, he asks David not to break everything and goes to the monitors in the next room, and Sid then blows David a kiss and joins Loudermilk, and Loudermilk tells David to think of something stressful, and he thinks of this Halloween when he and Amy were trick-or-treating, and their dog King ran into this yard, and David followed him, and the angry boy was there and advanced on David. Now, we don't know what this is about, but we've seen before that David was very severely bullied, and that he had a lot of problems in school, which would make sense, especially because he's had these visions his entire life. Would make sense why he probably was picked on because of that. So you definitely do get the sense that Amy was one of the only people who really did stick close to David, pre all of this, going down, pre him joining Summerworld and things like that. She was one of the people that stayed close to him. And you see, again, this was very stressful for him. So David snaps out of his memories, and Lenny appears to him. And we still don't really know what's going on here, but I really am loving this character of Lenny. And like I said, I think she's more of his conscience in this episode. Like, there's definitely a reason why she's there. And she says that they think that they can say David, while Loudermilk realizes that the speech sensor of David's brain is active, but he's not really talking, so they don't really know what's going on there. Lenny tells David he's not safe there and that this is not at all a good idea, but David insists that they're helping him and that he has powers, and Lenny reminds him that Division 3 is Amy and he needs to be focusing on that, but he's not, and that's something that you think it would be focusing on, but his mind is just so scattered and all over the place that he doesn't have time to focus. He just can't focus on this one thing. There are other things he has to focus on, and on a lesser show, I would say, oh, that's just bad drama. But here, I completely understand. His mind is, at this point, a puzzle board. It really is. I mean, there are just so many pieces scattered everywhere, and he just can't focus on one specific thing. And she warns that Melanie has secrets of her own. And again, it gives us some great clues as to, not possibly not trusting Melanie. Melanie might not be as trustworthy as she seems. And it definitely does show that we still do have a lot to learn. I really do like the way that Lenny is providing us, that doubt that this isn't exactly what we think it is, that this isn't going to be, exactly the right thing for him. Maybe what David's doing isn't the right thing to do, but right now there really isn't as much of a choice he has. So all of a sudden, Amy then takes Lenny's place. I don't know how David was able to see her, but she says that that they're hurting her, and we don't know what that's about. I don't know if that was David, thinking in his mind that, oh, I need to save my sister, but that was very strange. The room starts shaking, the equipment short circuits, and Sid goes to David, who levitates into the air, and Carrie and Loudermilk then run in as David and Sid disappear in a burst of lights, and Brubaker then tells Amy that she told Ben that when she grew up, strange things happened around David, and she let them lock David up when she knew that her brother had psychic power, and Brubaker says that she was the one who let them turn David into a fool, and now he's running around with too much power and no self-control. So now Amy's starting to realize what's really going on, that David did in fact have these psychic powers, and he asks Amy to help them find him and turn him off, and that's exactly what they want to do. They feel that David essentially has too much power, and that this is essentially going to break him, and that what he really doesn't understand what he's becoming, because yeah, he doesn't really have any control, and they want to be the ones to harness it. At least that's what they're telling Amy, and that's kind of what we need to believe because of what, Lenny just said, that maybe they are actually the ones that can help him. But Amy says that David hasn't called. She'd tell them if she knew anything, and the eye senses David's presence and reaches for him, and David's psychic presence then disappears. So we then get this fantastic scene with David and Sid that I really did love. I've said before that they really are like the emotional core of this show, and this episode is no different. We see they teleport outside to the nearby lake. They walk to shore and go inside, and they tell Melanie, Potomi, and Loudermilk what happened. And Melanie tells David not to go back there because the next time they'll be waiting for him, they'll either kill him or they'll follow him back to Summerdale and just kill them all, which is not a good situation for any of them. So again, Sid as well is telling this is not a good idea, but Sid realizes that Melanie actually does know the eye. This is not something that she is, unfamiliar with. She has definitely encountered the eye before, and that in itself is very interesting. But Melanie explains that Summerdale used to be a horse ranch, and her husband Oliver inherited it, and built the place with Loudermilk 30 years ago before anyone knew what was really happening. So again, she might not know. She just knows that he was working with him, and they went looking for people to fill it and found Walter, who is the eye. However, Walter wanted to hurt people. He didn't want to just harness their powers. He wanted to hurt them. And when David says they have to get Amy back, Melanie tells him his brain is defending himself, and she can't do what she needs to do to train David, and is very worried that she's making things worse. So Melanie admits that they're at war and they're losing, and David may be the most powerful mutant alive, so much so they don't understand what he's really becoming, which that would make perfect sense. Again, they don't understand him. So she admits that she wants to fix David so he can be happy, and so she can use him in the war. But the real question is, what does she mean by fix David? Like, is David really worth fixing? That's the real question here. So David says that all he cares about is Amy, and they agree in that they should take a harder approach, and Melanie wants to sedate David to lower his defenses, and Sid insists on going into the memories of Melanie, but David refuses, says that he'll be fine, and she's disgusted. She really wants to help David. She wants to assist him, even though, and this is, again, the only way they can really have actual contact, because we know she can't actually touch him. They can't actually have any sort of, physical contact. It's really the only way she can stay close to him, and you can definitely tell that it's already kind of fading away, and it's kind of sad to see. So that night, David lies in his bed. He remembers his time with Lenny when the devil appears in his memories. Sid jerks awake, goes to check on David, discovers that he's gone, and she finds him in the shower room, and David explains that he actually used to be a junkie, and he was high all the time, such as why the show feels like a drug trip, because David was in fact very, very into drugs, and he was always high, and he admits that he lied and stole, and warns that once Sid sees his memories, that she won't feel the same about him. She won't be able to look at him as the way she has, because up till now, she's seen him as the man of her dreams, as this is, who she's supposed to be with. Remember, Sid's someone who believes in happy endings and things like that, and she's someone who just thinks, touch of the fingertips, that's wrong. But if she sees the things that he did, she'll look at him as a very vile man, and that's not what the impression that he wants her to have of him. So it makes sense why David feels this way. And basically, Sid insists she can handle it, asks if he loves her. David says if she knows he does, and Sid has nothing else to say, considering David wonders if everyone's wrong when they say that he's sane, because he really doesn't know if he is at this point. So the next day, Melanie gives David the sedative, and Potomi scans his memories of how David arrived at Clockworks, and they see Lenny wheeling David down an alleyway in a shopping cart, but there's no sign of their David. This is a different David. A child David's there. Melanie explains it's David's subconscious, while the sedative keeps his rational mind inactive, and Sid's powers don't work there without her physical body. And young David wordlessly hugs her, because again, if Sid goes into someone, she turns into them. And they follow the memory David to where he literally breaks into Poole's office, and he takes whatever he can to find that's worth anything. Remembers talking to Poole earlier about the stars, and we don't really know what was going on with David here, if he, was very in need of certain items, but the room starts to shake. David then grabs a taste of his sessions with Poole. Sid warns Melanie Potomi that something is coming, and she sees a brief flash of David eating the tapes, and young David hides. Cracks forms in the wall that only Sid and young David can see. Something starts to come through. Melanie tells Potomi to get them out. He can't, and young David runs out of the room, past the next room where David and Lenny are getting high, and we don't know again what's going on here, but again, just that notion that these two, that whole reveal that we know that these two are in fact getting high. We now have more of an idea of what's going on. So Sid goes after young David because she just doesn't want to accept the fact that she can't be in this mission. She wants to see what he's hiding from her, and she finds herself, finds herself in the kitchen when David and Philly are arguing. It's a pretty ferocious argument, like it's really bad, and young David runs to a bedroom, and we find out the reason why they're probably arguing is because David and Lenny are literally having sex in the other room. So maybe there was an affair going on, maybe David and Lenny had some sort of tryst throughout their entire life. We don't really know, but Sid quickly gets young David out, barricades the door behind them. She then tells the boy they're going to play hide and seek, and David leads Sid to his hiding place. The angry boy appears behind Sid, slamming the door and standing, and young David shows Sid a loose grill, and they climb inside the duct, and the angry boy comes toward them. Sid climbs inside just in time. He climbs through the ducts, and Sid sees the devil behind her, and Sid tells young David to wake up, and again, she's going to do what she can to try to save him. However, in the real world, Sid wakes up and finds the others completely unconscious. She wakes Potomi up, but she can't wake up Melanie or David, and we get this incredible twist where, well, not really a twist, but the way this episode ends was pretty awesome, where in David's memories, Melanie goes upstairs in the house and hears King whimpering. She follows a noise through the bedroom closet, turns on the light, and she finds a copy of The World's Angriest Boy in the World on the floor. And that angry boy is the angry boy we keep seeing in David's visions. And in the book, the angry boy cuts off his mother's head, sets the town on fire, and then the book slams shut on her hand. It bites off her hands, and the devil appears behind her. And this, I think, again, plays into the idea that David's going to have to do something very drastic to save everyone. I think it might revolve in, it might have to do with him killing his mother. I could definitely see something like that happening, but Melanie wakes up from his trance. They confirm that her hand is okay, and Sid wonders if what they experienced were memories or something else, and David is still unconscious, and in his mind he hears dozens of voices yelling at him, not entirely sure what's going on, but starting to realize really what he's been told, what he's been tasked to do, and that is the way this episode ends. Really great stuff overall. Let's get into this episode and where we're going to go from here. So once again, guys, this was another really great episode, and once again, a lot of stuff to really think about here, especially what's going on right now with Sid. As we can tell, Sid really wants to get a bigger view into David's world, and as we know, the only way she can really do that is to literally switch bodies with him, which is kind of complicated too, because she doesn't really switch bodies. It's more like they switch minds. Like, she has David's mind, he has her mind, and there was that great scene where he was talking about how much he felt like it was wrong what he was doing, and like how he was trying to get a look into it. I just thought all that was really interesting, the way that was done, like how he talked about how he liked being her. I really did love the way that whole thing was done. I thought it was a very well done scene overall. Just everything about that was really interesting. But what's even more interesting to me is what's really going on between David and Melanie, because at least to me, it seems there's a much deeper connection there than we think, especially with the warning that both Lenny and Amy and now Sid have given him that that things might not be exactly what they seem. This notion that the Summerworld people of this world, they're not really helping David. They are in fact weakening him, and they're not good for him. Which that would be a very interesting revelation if the show does decide to go in that direction. And honestly, I could see that happening. From what we've seen with Melanie so far, we don't know much about her. We really don't, but it doesn't exactly seem like she's helping him. I think in her mind, she thinks she is. Remember, she wants to fix him in any way she can, but as I've said before, I don't really think David needs any fixing. I think he needs to evolve, and I think there's a way to control it. And suddenly, when you look at the Eye and what they're doing, their whole idea of trying to control David and getting him to, find a way to restrain him and kind of put a hold on his memories, that doesn't seem as bad as what Melanie's doing. What Melanie's doing sounds a lot more extensive and sounds a lot more dangerous. So I don't really know if that's the direction we're going in, but I kind of think that's what's going to happen. So I think that's going to be interesting if that's what ends up happening. But again, we'll really have to see, because I think that whole story, I'm very intrigued by seeing what's going on there. Also, what's the trance that Melanie was in? What's the connection with the angriest boy in the world? The angry boy, there's definitely some sort of connection there, and I love the way the show, again, just throws a bunch of random things at you and you don't exactly know what they mean. And right now we're very unaware, but it's giving us, it's making us theorize things and it's getting us to talk about it. And I love shows that do that. I really do. That's one of the reasons why The Leftovers Season 2 is, in my opinion, the greatest TV seasons of all time, because it just threw so many weird shit at you and you didn't know what it was all about and how this is going to connect, and they connected it perfectly. And I'm hoping Legion does the same thing. Things like that, they've done a pretty good job with so far, and I'm interested in seeing really where they're going to go with that. I mean, what's this whole thing with the angry boy? There's definitely something about that angry boy that I'm sure we're going to find out in the coming weeks. But right now, it's virtually unknown, what's really going on there. We just know that David keeps seeing this angry boy in his visions, and we don't really know what that's all about. I think that definitely is very interesting, what's going on there. But also, we now know that Melanie actually knows the Eye, and her and her husband, they've been working together for a long time with the Eye, so I definitely think we're going to get more into that backstory. There's definitely a war going on, so I'm willing to bet that these two work together, and then something happened, because, as far as I know, Oliver's MIA right now. He's not there anymore. She talks about her husband, Oliver, and we don't know where he's been. I know Jermaine Clement's eventually going to come on to the show, which is awesome. I can't believe they got an actor that caliber to come on. He's just an incredible actor, but he is going to be coming on as this character, but we don't know anything about him, and I think definitely something happened between Oliver and the Eye, or Walter, as we know his name is now, that we don't know about, and I can't wait to see what that revelation is really going to be. I think there's a lot going on there that we don't know, and again, I love that uncertainty. I love the way the show isn't telling us anything. It wants you to make your own, draw your own conclusions and really think about what you think is really going on, and I love the way the show is doing that. But it's not doing it in the sense where Noah Hawley feels he doesn't have a story, because I think it's the complete opposite. I think Noah Hawley has a perfect endgame. Like, he very well knows where he wants to go with the show. He's admitted before, he has a lot of the show planned out, and I think that's why he's taking the show in such a slower direction, because he already knows the kind of story he wants to tell, and this is the build-up to it, and he's doing a pretty good job with that so far, at least, from my eyes. I think he's doing a pretty good job with that. I like the direction that we're headed with that. My only real thing with this episode is, one, I forgot to say, the reveal of Amy and David. Again, there's a lot of stuff going on there. I think she's definitely going to start to learn what's going on with him, that he's not really as insane as she's been led on to believe, and I don't really know what she's getting herself involved in, but I just have this feel, I don't know, to me it doesn't seem like a bad thing. Like, it seems like these people actually do want to help David, but again, we don't really know. We'll have to see what happens there. And then, of course, the other side of this is David and Lenny's relationship, because we now see there's a much deeper connection there. We've known since episode 1 that these two have been friends, and supposedly Sid was the one who killed her. Again, we don't know if that's actually true. The show showed us that, but again, it's been shown before that you can't really trust everything you see in the show. I mean, there are a lot of things that David has not told Sid about, and there are a lot of things that he himself does not remember, such as when he was high, and we can see when he was high, things were a lot different with Lenny. They had, I think, a more romantic relationship, or, he probably had sex with her, maybe in a daze. He didn't really know what was going on there. Again, he pointed that out, that he doesn't really know who he was when he was high, so I think that's interesting as well. But how does Philly fit in all this? Because clearly Philly, something happened there. I mean, clearly this really fucked up their relationship. I don't know how Lenny really got involved with that, but I'm guessing that Lenny is the one that really caused the relationship to go south. We don't know too much about that, but I do love the way they're showing us that stuff. I think it's just a really brilliant way of telling a story, and that's something I'm really loving about the show so far, is that it really does have its own voice, and that makes I completely understand why people don't like the show because of that, because it is so different. There's really nothing on TV that's done in the way this show is. I've never seen a show be as random as Legion is, but not for a second do I think any of this stuff is just supposed to be random and is supposed to be taken at face value. There's a lot more deeper meaning behind the show. There's a lot more in the surface than we think there is, and I can't wait to see them peel back those layers, and that's what's really keeping me hooked in, is what's really going on here. There's such a bigger mystery going on, and that's the thing that I just can't wait to see what ends up happening, you know, as well as, you know, here are Peter and Vanessa. We know that Philly, we're talking about them, so we definitely got the sense that David definitely had a life with Philly, and we don't know what that's all about. Also, the boy in the woodcutter as well. I don't know what that's all about, if that has something to do with David, but I don't know if they're trying to say that David was adopted, but I'm kind of getting that sense from that story. I don't know if that's true, but it kind of makes sense to why he never sees his mother anymore, but again, we'll have to see what happens there. We still don't know a lot about David's childhood, and that's because he doesn't really know either. We basically know everything that David knows, and I love the way the show is doing that so far. I love that the show is just doing its own thing. It's not trying to be like other shows. It's its own show, and I love the way that it's telling that story. And overall, guys, was another really great episode for me. I continue to love this show, and I am going to give Legion Season 1, Episode 3, Chapter 3, a 4.5 out of 5, or an A-. My only real complaint in this episode before I end the video is that I do feel that while I do love the characters of Sid, David, and Lenny, I think they've done a very good job of developing them, we don't know a ton about the rest. I want to know more about the Loudermilks. I want to know more about Melanie. I'm sure we'll find out more about them as the show goes on. It's just right now, the Loudermilks especially very much just feel like guides to give David information, to provide him with things that they know that David doesn't, and I'm hoping that they do a lot more with them, because I think we have an incredible cast here of so many talented actors and so many great characters that we can go in so many interesting directions with, and right now I really want them to stick out more, because while I think they are definitely doing a very good job, I think there's a lot more going on than we think, and that's something else I'm very much interested in getting in looking forward to. I'm loving the world building on the show. I'm loving the very trippy, just psychedelic tone the show really has. It's really different than anything else I've seen on TV. I love the way that's done. I can't wait to see where the rest of the season's going to go, and just that uncertainty is enough to really hook me into the show completely. I mean, I'm locked into it. I love where it's going. I can't wait to see where it goes in the coming weeks. We're almost to the halfway point in the season, and I'm completely fine if we don't get a ton more reveals. I'm sure we will get a lot more as the show goes on, but the more reveals we get, the more uncertainty hooks me further in, and I just can't help but love everything I'm seeing with the show. For me right now, it is probably the really first great show of 2017, at least in my eyes. So, guys, I'm this episode of Legion. Let me know what you guys thought of this episode overall. Love your thoughts, and I'm really loving the show so far. I can understand if someone isn't. I can understand people are being turned off by the show because it's just not telling them what they want. But I like that the show's not doing that. I like the show's not telling you, you know, straight out what's going on. It's treating the audience like it's smart, and I think there's very few shows that do that nowadays. But that's my review. Hope you guys enjoy it. We'll see you guys in my next video, which will be for Riverdale, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.